Rami, thank you for joining us. You recently shared on Jihad Watch that you have been receiving death threats for assisting Mr. Moriss, an Egyptian Coptic Christian seeking asylum in Canada, by exposing his case to the media. Can you please tell the audience about Mr. Moriss and his case for asylum in Canada?
Well, it's an honor and pleasure to join your show. Well, Hani, firstly, his name pronounced as Hani Moriss. He is a Coptic Egyptian refugee who came to Canada not recently, in 2015. He has an official refugee status in Canada. Maybe within 1 year or 2 years, he will obtain his citizenship. Well, his problems and issues started in January 2009. When one of his companies, the previous one which he was working for, clients, Ayad Fahim, an Egyptian citizen, filed a fraud case against the company which he was working for. Hani Moriss was taken to the police station in Kuwait City before he went to testify in the case. His manager called, asked for him to falsely testify against the client, which Hani Moriss refused to falsely testify. As I got from him, his Christian teachings forbid him to falsely testify. Naziza Abu Asi, he's the one who asked Hani to falsely testify and deny what happened to the client, but Hani refused, as I said, to falsely testify. Mr. Moriss lost his job because of that, because he refused to falsely testify. He went to the owners of the company, Anwar Mullah and Abdullah Mullah, to see if they would support his testimony of truth, but they refused to help. Instead, they told him he must obey his manager, but when Hani refused to falsely testify, he lost his job permanently. After the company fired him from his job, they committed another felony crime against Mr. Moriss for being absent from work, despite the fact he was never absent. Mr. Moriss filed a complaint of perjury against the company in the Kuwaiti government. He was surprised that the prosecutor committed another crime against him by refusing to look into the case. Mr. Moriss then filed a complaint against the prosecutor's decision to the court, but the complaint application was also rejected. Not surprisingly, the head of the court is a relative to the owner of his company, which he was working for, Al Mullah Motors Company. Mr. Moriss filed to preserve his labor rights, at least in the company. The company told him that he has no rights in the company, and they were backed up by the Kuwaiti government. The complaint in the case of perjury against him remained in the courts for 3 years until the government of Kuwait finally reminded Mr. Moriss that he was an Egyptian and a Christian. So they put him in jail because of that, because he was an Egyptian, not a Christian. There's a general view in the Arab world, especially in the Gulf Arab countries, that the Egyptians are inferior because due to the economic situation in Egypt. Also, he was a Christian, so they put him in a jail and forged a crime against him. I will not tell the whole story because it's a very long story, but from 2009 to 2015, they persecuted him, jailed him, tortured him, and banned him from traveling from outside Kuwait to any other country. Even they forced him to fast in Ramadan until the US Embassy and the UNHCR managed to send him as a refugee to Canada. Now he is suing Kuwait and all those who got involved in persecuting him.
Wow. I didn't realize the extent of the case. That's pretty big.
Yes, we wrote near 5-6 articles. Also, there are a lot of articles in Arab media, so it's very long case.
Wow. How did you get involved in the case?
Well, Mr. Samir Habash from United with Cops Association in Australia, I know him. I know this man. He introduced me to Hani. Moriss in order to help him, since I'm interested to help Christians and all others who suffer from persecution by Muslims and Islamic states. It happened in January in 2019. Then Sami Thabit, an Egyptian lawyer who works for Kuwait, starting sending me threats for being outspoken to expose Hani's case for being an apostate of also Islam. He started sending me threats on Twitter.
Wow. In Jihad Watch, you shared some of the threats against you. Rami, could you please talk about these threats?
Well, until now, we don't know how Sami Thabit, the Egyptian man, he's also a Muslim Brotherhood follower. I have a lot of screenshots from his Facebook page, proves my point of view. Also, Hani Moriss's point of view about him. He works for the same company which Hani worked in past. The thing is, we don't know how he got my number until now. This number is very old of me. I don't share it with anyone, but we believe he hacked Hani's phone, because it's not the first time he got hacked the Hani's phone. That's how we believe he got my phone number and sent me a threat. Also, he offered me a bribe, near $2,100 of dollars, to stop writing about this case, especially in Jihad Watch, since Jihad Watch has a lot of followers around the world, even in the Islamic world. They follow Mr. Robert Spencer. I read his blog. I refused, of course, to get involved with the bribe and saved these screenshots, and we sent these threats to Hani Moriss in Canada. He already saved them and sent them to Hani's lawyer. I will not mention his lawyer's name, but the Canadian authorities are aware from this case, and I cannot go tell each detail because many details are very secret, but that's a brief just a brief from this what happened.
This is amazing. It's really surprising how this is all coming through, but you know, God's in charge is how I look at it. He'll take care of everything. You're a believer in the risen Lord Jesus Christ. Will threats like this silence you?
Well, these threats will not silence me, actually. Even my name now is officially mentioned in the case, in the papers, in the documents of the case. Now my name is mentioned with Hani's side after these threats. And it's not the first time it happens. Actually, as I said weeks ago, the same man, Sami Thabit, threatened me on Twitter, mentioned that also he put his nose in none of his business, as I'm an apostate of Islam, which is punished by death, and he is threatening me. But the authorities in Canada and the current country where I reside are aware from these threats.
On this show, I want to go beyond pointing out problems. You're doing an excellent job pointing out the seriousness of what's going on. Somebody being forced to violate his conscience by, again, being asked to do something that is against Christianity, which is to lie and bear false witness. Do you have any solutions in mind to address Mr. Moriss's case and the threats you're facing?
Well, we already, let me just tell you, we already contacted the intelligence agency in Canada, and they are aware for this case, with the help of some member of parliament in Ontario. Even the federal government may get involved. I'm still not sure. I can't say anything. Unfortunately, the Conservatives lost in Mississauga in the recent elections, and the Liberals aren't going to help us in this case. Conservative candidates, Milad Mikhail and Hani Taufilos, both conservative candidates in Mississauga, launched against Liberals. I've been also asked to not mention the Liberal new member of parliament, their names, only if the Conservative won, and only if Andrew Scheer won as a prime minister against Justin Trudeau, the case will end with a few months. Can you imagine? Hani Moriss and his family are under threat, and photographs being taken by Kuwaitis for them. Even his apartment is being watched, and recorded, and photos of the apartment being taken by Kuwaitis. Each move by Hani is watched by Kuwaitis. Even he cannot go to the church to pray. He goes to the church each Sunday, but not easily he goes to the church because he is being watched and fears for his life. In my opinion, I ask the international community and the politicians in the United States to stand by Hani's case. Just the first question I have, is it possible and accepted by the international community to get papers from some bank, name it Al-Ahli Bank of Kuwait, as a loan for Hani, with the help of Al-Mullah Automotive Company, by the help also and of the Kuwaiti government, while Hani never and didn't apply with to any loan. Even the loan, the papers with the loan they got for him, it cannot be taken by a resident or a foreign, only this loan for Kuwaitis. That's a first problem. Second question, why there is no law in Kuwait to get justice in case the person who was persecuted is a Christian and a resident, not a citizen, since they committed a felony crime against him for being a Christian and a resident, an Egyptian. Third question, it's easy for Kuwaiti government to fabricate false cases for non-Kuwaiti because of the corruption in the Kuwait government. So the question here, since there's a court sitting will be in the 29th of January next year, after 2 months or 3 months. The Canadian government can protect Hani from Kuwait to not be assassinated, for example, by some criminal? So I asked for his protection by the international community, because until now, Canada didn't do anything serious to protect him. Also, I asked for the protection and to involve it of the Canadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Hani is a permanent resident of Canada. After 1 year, he will become a Canadian citizen. So I asked for their involvement, because the Saudi team who came as a refugee to Canada, Rahaf Al-Qanoun, is not better than Hani Moriss, since we are all human beings, and they are all got persecuted. Other question rises here. Where are the Kuwaitis Amir, the head of the state, from this case, and the Kuwaiti Foreign Ministry? Are they also involved? That's why they are silent. The Kuwaiti ambassador in Washington, D.C. knows about this case by the Coptic associations in the United States. Also, the Kuwaiti embassy in Australia also know about this case. I have a question. Will they start after me also then later? That's a question. I have many questions here, but in the end, I cannot tell everything because some details are secret.
This is quite a revelation. In the States, I would, from my take of things, is that most people assume that Kuwait is an ally of the United States, but what I'm hearing here is they're no friend to Christianity, and the corruption level you're speaking to is shocking. And unfortunately, this is the stuff that needs to get out. And I want to thank you for joining us.
You are most welcome.
Wow. Please tell our listeners and audience how they can follow your work, because your work is very important.
Well, they can Google my name over Google. I don't have a Facebook recently because of the trolls, as I said, but I have a Twitter page at Rami Dabbas, B. That's my Twitter page. I post each single article on my Twitter page, and even many followers follow me. More than 30,000 of followers.
And you can find some of his work on Jihad Watch also.
Yes, on Jihad Watch, the Times of Israel, and other websites.
Well, thank you very much, and God bless.
God bless you too.